So what's being reported is that a UFO the size of a planet, much larger than our Earth, has been seen receiving some sort of a solar blast. So what is taking place here? This is not the first time that this has been captured. This is the most recent report. So we're going to go over the basics. There's also a whole new free flow podcast over at Patreon. You might want to check it out. So it shows a giant UFO hiding near the sun, hit by a solar explosion. In the video provided by the space agency, the UFO remained motionless even after being hit by a massive solar explosion. So I'll try to go over the basic facts, and we will, in our own minds at least, speculate as to just what is happening here. The image of the UFO was captured using NASA's Solar and Heliospheric Observatory. This spacecraft was launched in 1995 with the mission of closely monitoring the sun to study its solar activity and to provide real-time data regarding space weather developments. In a video provided by Soho, a massive object can be seen near the lower region of the sun. According to UFO expert Scott Waring of ET Database, only the rear portion of the object was visible in the video. This could be due to the orientation of the object or the limited amount of visible light hitting it. Compared to the size of the sun, the object appears to be very massive and could even be as big as the other planets in the solar system. Interestingly, it remains motionless even after it received a direct hit from the sun's solar explosion. So let's go back to the beginning. Okay, so we are looking at a solar blast hitting some sort of an object. We've seen an increase in videos like this on YouTube over the course of the last decade. How long has this been going on? What's really taking place here? Okay, just a couple of words from me to you before we go back to the rest, because this is OTBTV. You're not going to get this type of commentary from these kinds of reports. But, I talk about some of the movies. The Truman Show, Dark City, The Matrix, and others that deal with the allegory of the archons. Okay, so some of these mysterious bodies, are they of the light? Are they of the dark side? And what's going on here with the sun's engagement with these orbiting bodies? Now, we're going to take a look at it a few times here. I don't know what's going on. Here's what I do know. When I saw the report, I'm like, this is something that I'm going to be discussing on my YouTube channel. And it's coming after a series of videos, some of which specified on my speculations about the paranormal connection to the sun. So I would recommend that you check those things out. And I would say that there's always often a synchronicity with the things that I'm saying or focused on, and things that are taking place in the world already have taken place, or maybe are taking place and we're not fully aware of it, and things come out later. This is not limited to me. This is also included in some of your understandings, why maybe you're looking in a certain direction, for example. I think that there is significance in why we're fascinated by certain things. I think that there is meaning in looking at some of the world events that are taking place right now. Some of the things and studies that are taking place with regards to the sun. There's another study that we'll get into. Okay, so some scientists believe that the sun and the earth are coming closer to each other. And as a result, right, we're seeing an increase in temperatures on earth as a result of this causal engagement. And there is some denial regarding that. And so I'm going to go over that particular report because it's interesting. Is the sun becoming closer to the earth, or the earth to the sun, as the earth's magnetic field becomes weaker and weaker, as we've seen a decline in solar activity, especially since the late 90s or 2000, right? What have been the other implications on society as a result of these changes in the sun, with regards to zombie apocalypse ongoing, with regards to like just what in the hell happened to planet Earth since the 2000s. We talk about the thinning of the Earth's magnetic field. I think about aliens. I think about archons. I think about the archonic interference in human affairs when the veil gets thinner. There's also opportunity for spiritual experiences. But as I said to someone recently, also on video, but it was good to say to someone in person who has an interest in things beyond the norm. And I was discussing how to them, we light up etherically. When we go through these changes in the sun, we are connected. We are energetic beings. And so there's certain times in which humans are targeted by spiritual parasites that feed on humans that are emitting certain types of light. So this is an understanding that I try to bring to the table. Let's go over the rest of the information provided, because there are some other things that were suggested here by Mr. Waring. We haven't got to them yet, but there's some really provocative thoughts that are in this. And what really stood out to me is that this is being published in the ibtimes.com. Okay. Again, NASA video shows giant UFO hiding near the sun. Major explosion. So previously, the UFO expert spotted another massive object that's about 5 times bigger than the Earth, exiting the giant star. In many of these sightings, the appearance of the UFO is usually followed by a solar explosion. Now, that's what caught my attention. Is the sun trying to deactivate certain types of UFOs or orbiting bodies that are maybe trying to get some solar energy while, operating somewhat near the Earth in some cases? But a lot of these things, these are satellite photos or video rather of activity in and around the sun specifically. So are they coming near the sun to power up? Due to the similarity of the sightings, Waring previously noted that the sun could be hollow. This is where it gets interesting. Like Waring, many UFO enthusiasts who believe in the hollow sun theory think that the massive star houses entire systems of alien planets. Just wrap your mind around that. The sun being something that gives birth to entire planets. These beings enter and exit the sun through door-like structures on its surface. Okay, so I'm already convinced that the sun is a transport hub. The sun and the Earth, I think that they communicate, and that science is catching up with evidence of Earth-sun communication. We're caught up in the middle as spirit essence, having a spiritual experience. Not everyone's going to agree. Okay, but that's the conclusion that I've come to. Don't forget about the cosmic rays. We're going to come back to a report about cosmic rays literally flipping the zeros and ones on the binary code. I know it sounds crazy, but I'll tell you what, it's taking more time than normal, it seems, for my cheap computers to operate. Sometimes it takes me a minute after I flip it on for it to come up to where I enter the password. And this is like a newer model computer. I'm noticing that computers are getting slower. It could be the operating systems, there's no doubt, made in China. There's also, the fact that I'm at higher elevation and we're experiencing the cosmic ray effect. So are other places on planet Earth, closer to the zero contour lines of the West Coast. That's also a place of high energy. So this concept of the sun being some sort of a transport hub for souls in and out of this reality here on Earth has been a concept that I've been dabbling with increasingly so the last couple of years, at least 6 or 7. And specifically that when the sun is more active, that we see more births through sex, and we see more souls passing out of this world through the act of being taken out by others. There's this birth and death cycle of the sun, for better or for worse. And it shows itself in some bloody ways here on planet Earth. Okay, so I want to reiterate that idea kind of as we look at this hollow sun theory and the idea of these worlds coming out of the sun in and out, because at bare minimum, most certainly, I believe that could be the truth for at least certain types of souls. And there is clearly some sort of history of solar deity information in human mythology that I haven't, in this life, to the best of my knowledge, studied. It's just something that's in the collective. I can see it. It's used in advertising. They hijack what's in the collective consciousness, these corporations. Even a YouTube commercial for BP or Shell, the rising sun. It's not the sun that's to blame, but there's a reason that they tap into that. It's because it's in the collective. And the collective has truly forgotten, to a certain degree, its connection to the sun. Spiritual ideas that connect to the sun, that are not going against God. And so this is really a time in which souls alive on planet Earth today, in the year 2019 and beyond, some of us are in a state of remembering. I don't think that it's by accident that we are sharing this information. This is information that also transcends common lines of division. Let's go back and look at some additional information. Based on this concept, it's possible to think that the escaping solar flares from the sun could be caused by the opening of the star's door. This is probably the reason why UFO sightings near the sun are almost always followed by solar explosions. It could also explain why the objects are not affected by the solar flares, even though they are known to cause devastating effects. We don't really know the effect, do we? So this powerful light in the sky is truly a mystery. Now, I want to show you this. We're just going to go over the basics. I mentioned that we were going to talk about asteroids. And this is that moment. This is that moment. And I'm not going to ignore what's in the mainstream, but I'm not going to discount the possibility of there being maybe a reason for all these Hollywood movies and blockbusters. Now, I'm considering bringing a segment, because I'm not here to trash all of pop culture. Bring in a new segment. Alex Ansary reviews Netflix movies, because there's a couple movies that I am reviewing because I want to see what they are putting, predictive programming specifically, what they're putting in these movies, in these Netflix originals. As far as that's concerned, I think, like an old friend from Portland, the A-Man, I think that his story would be great as a Netflix original. So would many others. There's some interesting Netflix originals. And then there's some stuff that makes you go, what the hell? So I'm going to review some of those Netflix originals. 4 asteroids on a collision course with Earth. However, let's review the basic dates. So we talk about the magnetic field weakening. Is that going to play a role in this? 1979 XB, that's the name of one of them, could come a lot closer to Earth around 2024. Okay. And then it starts going down the line of the other names of the asteroids. We are going over this information now and the key dates that are being reported. And then we think about, well, where is the solar cycle going to be, in 2029? Oddly enough, the Terminator movie, back to predictive programming, we have all this stuff happening in 2029, if we remember the plot. Also, a shout out to the new people that joined over on Patreon. Want to let you know if there's a longer podcast, so I'm not necessarily limited or limiting myself to the solar sciences. Sometimes I talk about the stage-managed political divide and how they want us divided as these events are heading our way. But because of the YouTube algorithm, sometimes I don't necessarily get into all that stuff here. I try to have it more in a focused direction. Right now, the social, or rather solar sciences, and the social effects. And I also am going to go deeper into human psychology. Right now, I'm going to be expanding the ideas, at least, that I have for the future. I'm focusing on kind of a core message right now, and these are all really relevant events. But there's also a series of segments that I feel kind of shaken up, just like our magnetic field is shaken up. My consciousness feels shaken up, and I feel like, There's Alex Ansary's 101 ways in which our world is totally upside down and how we can correct it. And you know what I mean? There's just like these little like, I'm starting to like think about things when I'm out in society. Maybe you've noticed it too. Maybe you've come to your own senses and gone, wow, it's as if our world's totally backwards and just needs to be realigned. And who knows, maybe as we come into this solar cycle 25, consciousness could realign for some people. Madness, however, will be present, so don't kid yourself. There's going to be radio shows out there that talk about the shift. Oh my God. Oh, the collective shift in consciousness. And you're going to hear others talk about, absolute Armageddon. Where's the balance? This is a planet in which multiple realities are happening at the same time. So there's certainly a abundance of these asteroid movies, and I'm not here in this moment to knock every movie that comes down the line as predictive programming. Certain things are entertaining. Certain things make us think. It's said that something that's entertaining, that makes you think and educates you is good, especially if you're being educated about something that's factual and it's not programming. And a lot of programming uses the entertainment to put in those subliminals. And it's not bad to be informed and to plan strategic relocation in the event of massive geomagnetic field disruption. I think we're experiencing it now. There's even certain parts of the planet that have magnetic anomalies. Magnetism is a very, very interesting subject. And it was actually pretty awesome to talk with someone in person who knew a lot about magnetism at areas in which he's traveled through in New Mexico. New Mexico has some really interesting sites. Chaco Canyon. There's other mysterious sites, but his perspective was one that, the ancient world, there's some stuff that happened that may have happened back then that wasn't so good. By the way, there's going to be an eclipse in 2024. So as we look at the potential of asteroids, and we look at some of the years that they're warning us about, what are they saying? They're saying 2024. Well, in 2024, we have a total solar eclipse. And by then, our magnetic field will be weaker, will be even more vulnerable to both, I think, a geopolitical conflict. We could be likely in something by then. Declared even by 2021. Watch China and the statements that they'll make. Okay, so watch those directions, watch those movements, but do not panic. Be hyper informed. And this is a mantra that you might want to take in or consider in your prayers or your focuses or in your training. How do we take this hyper intelligence that some of us may be tapping into or awareness of the world and also channel it to things of a higher nature? So it's not all about fear, to where we're actually even looking deeper. If we're actually approaching a moment in which civilization is about to get a punch in the face with a set of knucks, to be frank. And so that's not a pretty thing to go through. And if there are cosmic forces that karmically are allowing this to happen, and don't assume that it's the destruction of the earth or world destruction. Yeah, how do you know it's not a liberation? I mean, it's almost as if like our world has been captured. Yeah, could there even be, I'm free flowing now, orbiting bodies that maybe might knock the planet out of its slavery? And, I don't mean to go too far out of left field, like an asteroid out of control, barreling toward the earth. I'm not wishing any harm upon us, but ultimately I do wish the best for us. And don't you? And so what would that really be? Do we know what that is? And I'm not so sure that we do. I am convinced that we are taught fables in this world. We're taught to fear things all the time, that we're in a machine of fear that keeps on giving. I also have come to understand that conspiracy theorists are usually not the type for the community oriented. And we need to keep the conspiracy side of ourselves in check, because all fear and no part of ourselves that truly connects to the earth or community is something that without spirituality can be hijacked. So the reason why you have hijacked movements of people that are into conspiracies on the internet is so much as riding on a certain type of vibration or frequency. And they're manipulating that. Okay, so even though there might be some people that think that they're awake on Facebook, they may not know what's real and what's not real. And even though all the stuff's come out, right? Just because there's manipulation regarding politics, there's things that are totally outside the field of politics, in which there is a agenda to skew reality as to what is real and what is not real. Things that are totally outside the field of politics. There are people right now that are so in deep in politics that they're making everything about politics and this group siding with this group and this, that, and the other, without realizing like there's all these people that are being oppressed right now on YouTube that are not political. They're just non-corporate channels. Making everything politics and this, that, on the other totally like omits the oppression to people that aren't even super political, that are just being caught up in this madness. And so as we kind of reroute this, take a look at the true injustices that are taking place with this current algorithm, and sign up to Patreon today. Help offset the financial depression that YouTube is bringing us. Here I am trying to shine the spotlight on some of these key concerns. Some of them based in intuition, some of them based in research. Really, it's a fusion of a mix of different things. When it comes to my research on the sun, these energies, these entities, the paranormal, what's coming with China, and ultimately why I've left the West Coast of the United States and prefer higher elevation, why I'm looking at reality from here. Yes, I'm tempted to travel America, but I'm also looking for signs of organization in various places. So it's not a repeat of some of the unfortunate traveling experiences in the past. Right now, the sign is to be grateful for what you've got. Travel. We travel with our mind. We move internally, big time. We have a deeper, new relationship with ourselves and the cosmos, right? It's like, I was watching all these astrology videos, pumping up, my Pisces self, like, oh yeah, relationships, travel, new jobs, yeah, yeah. And it's like, and it's like, but just because things don't necessarily manifest in the way in which, people are given the readings on, say, a YouTube channel, that doesn't mean those things aren't happening in other ways. Like I said, internally. Okay. So what's really happening here? Do we really have all the facts? Do we really have all of the information? With this knowledge of the Earth's weakening magnetic field, the changes in the sun, and a combination of these factors resulting in a cascade of what they're calling asteroid threats. So let's continue with some of the years. We're not going into every little detail, but you're getting the idea that we're only getting one side of it while we're being bombarded with movies about this. Not to mention the more known conspiracies that certain things might be controlled, even a takedown of the grid and other things. I wouldn't take some of that stuff too far to the point where the possibility of natural disasters are disqualified. There are possibilities of natural disasters and things that the new world order cannot control, even possibly things that they're afraid of. And this is probably the more important place to leave this podcast, to leave this video. Are they afraid of something coming that they don't really want to telegraph in truth, that it scares them? I mean, maybe what we're seeing now is at least some admission that there are some things coming. There are people that are, for the most part, aware now that there are underground facilities and that that's a touchy subject, and that there have been plans on a worldwide level for some kind of event. And so here we are getting clues regarding certain dates. So we talked about 2029, also mentioned in the Terminator. I believe that they also get into the 2030s here. And so they talk about a few others. Here's a name of an asteroid, 2000 SG344. Don't even ask me how they come up with the names for some of these things. Another one here is 2022. Okay, for 2010 or 2010 RF12. Set to pass the Earth 2022. Okay, so what's interesting about 2022? By then, we will already be out of the solar minimum. We will be at the ascent of the solar cycle by 2021, 2022, 2023. That's also a period in which we could see the beginning of a new conflict, because we often see through the cycles of war and peace, elaborated on by Burl Payne, not just discovered by Alexander Chizevsky, but talked about by others, that we see the onset of wars launched by these psychopaths, whoever they are, the powers that be, I think even beyond human, at the ascent and the descent of the solar peak. When are we going to see the solar peak for solar cycle 25? It's projected to be 2025. I've been talking about that for 10 years because in my gut and on my intuition, there's been this area surrounding the red zone of 2025 and what will be to follow. And how can we change the timeline? We will come back to this, my young Jedis, my friends out there, and I thank you for watching. I thank those of you on Patreon. I'm Alex Ansary signing off, reminding you the path to the ultimate